This recipe was originally intended to be part of my last video, the sandwich video, but it inspired me to make something improved version, which ended up just being a breakfast sandwich. So this is originally called the nightcap sandwich, and this is a reduced recipe. It has Vienna sausages, 2 of them sliced thinly works, some onions diced, about a tablespoon of diced pimentos, salt and pepper, and that's it. You just mix that in, make sure all the sausage is pushed off the sides, pushed into the egg mixture. Throw that into a buttered saucepan set on medium-low heat. The recipe states they need to be poured on the toast when they're done, so I cooked them like scrambled eggs, just kept them moving, took them off the heat if they were getting too hot, didn't let any curds form, and then just put those aside. The recipe also called for rye or whole wheat bread. I used pumpernickel because that's what my grocery store had. After toasting, buttering, I spread the eggs on top, put the other piece on, and cut it for a cross section. And that is the nightcap sandwich. The taste, it was very eggy. You would think anything else would stand out, like the Vienna sausage, but it really didn't. It just tasted like eggs, so that's what inspired me to do better. Beginning with half a cup of warm water and a cup of milk, you can microwave it to bring it just above room temperature. To that can be added 1 tablespoon of sugar and 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. Mix that in and then let it sit until it blooms so you can see a foam on top when it's ready. Then in a bowl of a stand mixer or a regular bowl if you don't have one, I started with 2 cups of flour, another tablespoon of sugar, a teaspoon of kosher salt, and have that mixed in. Incorporate it before adding in our yeast mixture. So I let that go on a low speed, just let it start to incorporate, mix together, making sure to scrape down the sides, and then added 3 tablespoons of melted butter. Once that was mixed in, I added in just a little shy of another cup of flour, just enough to pull it all together into a ball. Turning up to medium, I only let it go for a few minutes and then took out that sticky ball of dough and put it into a well-greased bowl. Then it can be placed into the fridge for a 24-hour cold rise before turning it out onto your work surface, cutting it, and rolling it into a log. This log can be cut into about 10 pieces. I greased a piece of parchment paper on a tray, added some cornmeal, and then taking those individual dough balls, they should each be about 3 ounces, adding and subtracting from other ones. They can get rolled out and then placed, squished down a little bit onto your tray until they all fit on. Then covered in a warm area to rise for about an hour. To replace the Vienna sausage, I just made breakfast sausage patties using about 1.5 pounds of ground pork. I added half a teaspoon of paprika, a healthy dash of ground clove, a teaspoon of salt, half teaspoon of ground sage, half teaspoon of dried thyme, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder and a 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder, grated nutmeg, and then shy of a 1/4 teaspoon each of ground rosemary and fennel seed. Mix it well by hand, and then they can be shaped into sausage patties however big. I made mine a little bit bigger because we were having these for dinner. I wrapped them and kept them in the fridge until I needed them. With a few tablespoons of vegetable oil in a cast iron skillet or a griddle if that's what you have, bring it up to a medium-low heat. You don't want it too hot. It's kind of like pancakes. The outside will brown before the middle is cooked, so you're gonna have to play with it a little bit, cooking both sides for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then they can be set on a wire rack to cool. Adding just a bit more vegetable oil back to the skillet, I began to fry up the sausage patties, just turning it up a little bit to a medium-high heat, and then cooking those until the internal temperature registers to about 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Instead of pimentos, I thought I'd do a roasted red pepper aioli. Now you can roast a red pepper in your broiler, place it under a broiler set on high, turning to blacken all sides, wrapping in your tin foil until you can just pull off that blackened skin. I then made a mayonnaise using Kenji Lopez Alt's method. I'll link that. I put 1 egg into a measuring vessel, and then I added in the juice of a lemon, a clove of garlic. I cut it in half just so it would just mix in easier, and a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Then streaming in 300 milliliters of sunflower oil. that oil will sit on top of the egg. And if you want to know the science behind it, just watch Kenji's video. It's really great. Then the head of an emulsion blender will be pressed down into the egg and started, and then the oil will slowly stream itself in using a vortex, and you can lift up and kind of just move it around to incorporate. Within seconds, it makes the tastiest, easiest mayonnaise you've ever had. Took about 3 tablespoons of that, added in the chopped up roasted pepper, dash of paprika, salt and pepper to taste, and a teaspoon of white vinegar, and then just mixed it all together. And then for the final element, I took a non-stick frying pan, added some butter, and then just made 2 eggs over easy. I don't know why, but I didn't film the whole process of cooking the eggs, but for eggs over easy, you just put them in a frying pan, flip them once they're most of the way set, and then the yolk should still be somewhat runny, but not fully cooked, kind of like a gravy consistency, I guess. And then finally we can take an English muffin and open it the way I just showed with the fork. That kind of gives you that texture, the nooks and crannies, and then it can just be put into a toaster and toasted at whatever setting you keep your toaster set at. Then taking the toasted halves of the English muffin and the red pepper aioli, smearing a generous amount on each half. I see now I have adequate footage of me smearing this aioli but not cooking the eggs. There we go. Anyways, then we put the egg on, and then our sausage patty. You can add cheese here, but just to make it authentic to the kind of like the nightcap, I didn't add cheese. And tasting it, it was as delicious as you'd think it was. This is a really great thing to have homemade. It's a lot of work, but the aioli was so good that my wife finished all of it, dipping hash browns in it while I was making my second sandwich. So I'll take that as a compliment, and you can like and subscribe if you want to see more videos.